channel, bienvenido otra vez a mi canal. Gracias a todos por supporting me. Anyways, thank you all for supporting me. It's been a year since I made my first video. If you haven't checked that out, please make sure to check that out. It will probably help you a little more understanding this video. So, yeah. So, this video was actually inspired by one of my followers, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie, for suggesting this video. She suggested I spoke about being a Central American in a non-hub area. And so I decided to do that. You know, that's why we're here now. Okay. As you can see, the flag behind me, I am Honduran. I am Hondureña, Catracha, whatever you want to call it. So, if you don't know, if you don't follow me on Twitter, if you're not on Twitter, you probably don't know about hashtag Central American Twitter or the big old, you know, Central American family, Central American pages that have been created through Twitter. Which is basically how I met Stephanie. And so, if you're not on Twitter, like I said, you should definitely check that out. There's articles actually about Central American Twitter, so you probably can hashtag Central American Twitter, Google to search it, and will pop up or whatever. But, here lately, you know, we've been discussing life for Central Americans, predominantly, you know, those of us are in the States. And so, I don't know, we've just been discussing what you know, it's been like for those of us that were raised or grew up in non-hub areas, you know, meaning areas where there isn't a large Central American population. And, you know, Central American Twitter, the hashtag was created by a guy named Wilfred, and the Central American main page that, you know, connected a lot of Central Americans was created by Salvadoran. I think they're all Salvadoran actually. It was created by a Salvadoran by the name of Saira. So thank you all for creating such an amazing platform, an amazing way to network with other people that are, you know, like us, but at the same time different, because we're all different, we're all unique in our own certain ways, you know. So I'm just gonna backtrack a little, you know, before I officially start speaking about my experience being in a non-hub area. I was born in the Bronx, New York. I was sent to live in Honduras. I was living in Honduras for like 2 years. I started school in Honduras. When I was living in Honduras, I was living in Tocoa, Colón, Honduras, which is like roughly, I think, I can't even remember exactly because I just don't go there no more. It's probably like an hour away from Trujillo, which is where my family's from, Trujillo, Colón. Trujillo is a Garifuna village. Tocoa isn't. Tocoa is just a city. They're both in the same department, but they're just not, you know, like one's a village, Garifuna village, the other one isn't. So life for me was, you know, like interesting going back and forth from the both when I was living in Honduras. When I was living in Honduras, like I said, I was living in Tocoa. I lived in a neighborhood called Barrio Los Maestros. There were not that many Garifuna or, you know, / black people in the neighborhood. I attended school and there weren't like many at least black people in the school. I cannot remember the name of the school. I just know the school is in el centro de Tocoa, and that's just all I can remember. And so that was interesting because my time in Tocoa was spent with most people that are mestizo. In Honduras, I grew up calling them, and they, you know, just calling them indios. But from what I've learned on Twitter, it's a slur. So for the sake of this video, because I've learned better, I'm not going to use the term indio whatsoever. However, you know, you get the point. People that look like the stereotypical Honduran, whatever, you know, you're supposed to look like for a Honduran. Those are the people I was living with and spending my time with when I was in Tocoa. In my neighborhood, I had absolutely no issue being, you know, one of the only black families whatsoever, because it was just like, I don't know, it was just cool. Like, not necessarily cool, but like, I don't recall experiencing racism in my neighborhood. But it was definitely in school where I definitely did feel like an outcast, because I was black And I feel like I feel like I was the only black girl in my class, to be honest. I cannot remember, but I really feel like it, because I feel like if I wasn't, I feel like I would have had a friend, but I didn't. I would actually go and look for my older cousins that attended the same school as me, which ironically my cousins lived in front of me when we were living in that neighborhood in Togoa. And so they were living in front of me or whatever, and I'm gonna just put this on vibrate because I keep checking this. Oh, customers are getting their orders. Anyways, so I would look for my cousins because they were the only ones that were black beside me, but they're older than me, so our recess time wasn't necessarily the same, and they had their own friends, and but that was that. And then so on weekends I would be sent to Trujillo. I would be either with my great grandmother on my mom's side, or I would be on my dad's side, which is with my grandmother. And now I enjoyed being in Trujillo because I was with family and everybody in Trujillo for the most part, at least my side of town. Trujillo, like I said, it is Garifuna village, but that doesn't mean everyone there is Garifuna. But my side of the town, my just my side, everybody looks like me, so I didn't have any like issues. I felt comfortable home. Life for me in Honduras was funny. I was living there during Hurricane Mitch. Hurricane Mitch, I was living there, which is I think the year 98. I also, like I said, I was going back and forth from Tocoa to Trujillo, like a non-Garifuna area, a Garifuna area. And then when I was living in Tocoa with my mom, I call her mom even though she's not my biological mother. I still look up to her like a mom. We used to attend church. She was, religious, and we used to attend church, and I guess it was Pentecostal. But then on the weekends where I was in Trujillo, I was attending Mass. I was attending Misa. And so it's funny. And depending on who I was staying with in Trujillo, it would depend which Mass I would go to. Sometimes I would go to both. Like with my great grandmother on my mom's side, I would go to morning Mass. And then on my grandmother's side, or my cousins or my dad's side, I would go to evening Mass. And life was just interesting. Growing up, I was a little closer to my father's side, more so because I was closer to my cousins because they're my only cousins. On my mom's side, I am the first daughter, I'm the first grandchild, I'm the first great-grandchild. So I literally had no kids to play with on my mom's side. Whereas on my dad's side, it's like I have older cousins, and so it was just like, I was just the annoying cousin that used to just follow all the other cousins. And so that was life for me in Honduras. School in Honduras starts approximately February, well not approximately, starts in February and ends in November. School here starts in September. Well, when I was living in New York, starts in September, usually the day after Labor Day, and it ends the end of June. And so I came back to the States, I feel like end of August or early September. And so literally I stopped school midway in a sense over there and started brand new over here. When I came to the States, I did not know any English. Like, I don't even think I knew how to say hello. Like, it was just, I was mute. And I started preschool, or I started school or whatever. And eventually I got the gist and I learned English. When I had left for Honduras, when I had been sent to Honduras, we were living in the Bronx. But when I came back from Honduras, my family was living in Yonkers. So, yeah. I came back, I was living in Yonkers, and Yonkers is like not the same as the Bronx, where it's like a large Garifuna population. So I would definitely spend most of my weekends in the Bronx. Just kind of reminded me a bit of my life in Honduras. It's like I lived in Tocoa, but I spent a lot of my time in Trujillo, and then that's how it was for me in Yonkers. Like I lived in Yonkers, but I spent much of my time in the Bronx. And so Bronx has a large Garifuna population. A lot of actually most, if not all, of my family lives in the Bronx. And there's a lot of Hondurans, a lot of Garifunas in New York. So I never thought much about my culture. I never thought much about anything about my life as a Central American. Now, when I was 11 years old, we moved down south, moved to North Carolina, which I've been living here since then. I'm not about to tell y'all how old I am. I'm not about to give you no ideas. I was, I moved down here, and it was such a huge culture shock. Like, I thought I had a culture shock moving back from Honduras to New York because the tropical weather and the cold and the language. Boy, like, huge culture shock moving from New York down here. For one, I didn't understand what people were saying. I don't think I sound country. I may sound country to some people, but I don't really think I sound country. But if you think I sound country, you have not heard it, okay? Because it can get really bad. Okay. It can get really bad down here. At least I don't get country, but I'm saying, like, when I moved down here, I really did understand people. And then the questions were like, oh my gosh, like, where from? Like, you know, because I had a deacon New York accent. I didn't hear it, but now I think back to it, I did have a pretty thick accent. And so then being, you know, black, moving into the suburbs, we moved into the suburbs. Like, I don't know what my parents were thinking. We moved into the suburbs, and there weren't that many black people in my neighborhood, and it was just like, growing up in, like, Yonkers, especially my side, like, yeah, like, people, like, there's the nice parts of Yonkers, but I lived, like, you know, and it was just like, I've never been around so many, I'm not gonna say I've never been around so many Caucasians. I take that back, because I went to, the last school I went to in Yonkers was in basically Scarsdale area, and there were a lot of Caucasians, but most were like first generation to somebody that was European, Portuguese, you know, something like that. Italian. I went to school with a lot of Italians, you know, something like that. But it was my first time. I don't know. It was just different being in my neighborhood. It was just a whole huge culture shock just being in my neighborhood by itself. And then starting school was complicated because, like, I already had my friends back home. All my friends already knew I was Latina. All my friends already spoke to me in Spanish. It was nothing awkward, nothing weird. So here, I was comfortable already being Latina. I was comfortable speaking Spanish. I was comfortable, you know, bringing any kind of food up. I was just comfortable. But eventually, like, it got bad where I was getting bullied or teased. And, you know, I wrote about me being bullied and teased, about, you know, being different or whatever. And so I basically had to, like, learn how to figure out who I was and understand why I was different. Like I said, growing up in New York, I didn't think anything of it. Because everybody around me, I literally had, you know, it wasn't weird to go to school and be speaking Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Like, even at the last school I went to, which was full of, like, a lot of white people, it wasn't awkward. It was normal for me to speak Spanish. Like, it was normal for me to everybody just knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially New York is such a melting pot. It wasn't nothing awkward. But down here, it's like I was, like, some kind of monster, some kind of something that people had to try to, like, figure out, like, what are you? You know, it was crazy. It was really crazy. Like, for the most part, this is how school was set up. It was like, you were Latino, but most likely you were Mexican. And that was another thing. I didn't grow up with Mexicans. I only had 2 Mexican friends, or really only knew 2 Mexican people when I was living in New York. One actually was full Mexican, born in Mexico, and the other one was half Mexican and half Salvadoran. And that was, like, the most interaction I had ever had with somebody that was Mexican prior to moving down here. When I moved down here is when I learned more about Mexican culture. I learned there were Mexicans that actually look sort of like me. There, you know, I learned about Costa Chica and mole and pozole, all that. I learned a lot, which I appreciated, but it was such a culture shock for me at first. And I didn't understand their Spanish, and they didn't understand mine, or they'd look at me like I was speaking some other language. It was okay. So, like, we had the Mexicans, we had the Caucasians, and then we had, like, the bougie Caucasians and the Caucasians that weren't so bougie, and then we had the blacks and, you know, predominantly African Americans. And yeah, I'm black, but as far as culture, it just wasn't the same culture. Like, it was a culture shock for me either way it went. Like, I'm definitely not white, so that was just exited out. You know what I'm saying? Mexicans are looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm black and don't look like them, and they're over here questioning me. And then the blacks over here like, I literally would get questions from even, like, my African American peers, like, oh, you just don't want to be black, da, 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 da. I'm just like, I can't just not want to be black. Like, even if I didn't want to be black, can't wipe this off, guys. I look like you. And so it was such a huge shock. And it's like, no one knew where Honduras was. People would ask me, oh, where'd you learn Spanish? Oh, my parents are Honduran. Or I would say Honduran. This was before I learned it's Honduran. And they'd like, what? I'm like, Honduras? You know, like, I did have 2 friends in middle school that understood. Like, they literally, they had my back, yo. JoJo and Kiera had my back. And so, you know, they were willing to learn and were willing to understand more so. Middle school was trash. I hated middle school. I grew up in, you know, high school, and most of my friends were still Mexican. Like, still, for the most part, growing up, all my friends were mostly Latinos, you know, because I just never felt really, I'm not going to say I never really felt accepted, but a lot of African American peers didn't necessarily understand why I was black and spoke Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, and then eventually a lot of the Latinos did accept me, so I hung out with them. But I always, you know, was still black. Either way, I could go switch back and forth if I wanted to. And so my friends were either Mexican and Salvadoran. Those were for the most part, like my friend group. And either way, it was still like a culture shock because I'm black and I'm Honduran. I didn't have any Honduran friends. And then I still have my culture. I never really spoke much about being Garifuna growing up, at least. I don't recall, like, living down here, I don't ever recall, like, being so vocal about it as I am now. But I really thank my bullies for that, though. Like, y'all really made me who I am today. Like, for real, if it wasn't for y'all making so many jokes about me or trying to clown me, trying to question who I was, who I am, I don't think I would be so vocal about who I am these days. Like, nobody can shut me up these days. Like, you can unfollow me, you can block me if you're tired of me speaking about it, but I'm never going to stop speaking about it. It is what it is. But, you know, it's like, definitely when I came to college, it's definitely when I started a little, you know, like, I think I spoke about this in some video. I started joining organizations. I joined the African organization on campus when I kind of started seeing that there were so many similarities between the Garifuna culture and the African culture. And I was just like, look at this. This is beautiful. This is gorgeous. Just look at this. The diaspora. And so, but, you know, with all that being said, is my experience, you know, like, I definitely, you know, have had a different experience from many people that I've seen, like, on Twitter. And even not just that, like, besides that, my experience will also most likely be different from another Garifuna, because my parents are pretty young. My parents didn't really teach me much about the culture. A lot of what I know, I searched on my own, and then I would ask, like, my grandparent or, you know, somebody, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? It's gotten to a point where I apparently teach my parents stuff about our culture. So, you know, like, I'm still learning. My parents don't speak like Hondurans. The most Honduran accents I'll hear, and then even me, when I speak Spanish, apparently I don't sound Honduran. I sound like I'm Caribeña. I sound like I'm Dominican or something. That's what I've gotten the most. And my Honduran accent doesn't come out until I'm actually in Honduras. Like, well, decime. You know, I don't normally speak like that. And my parents don't normally speak like that either. They just, I don't really think they have an accent. I just think they speak Spanish, but they don't have like a voz, patachucho, que no sé qué. Like, it's not something I necessarily grew up like hearing a lot. There was even a point, though, my mom always jokes about it, when I was starting to speak with a Mexican accent, and my mom had to be like, yo, like, nah, cut this, is like, mm-mm. And, like, it's funny, you know, like, it was things like that where I would, like, literally unlearn the Spanish so that people could better understand me. But now I just kind of speak Spanish any kind of way. I don't know. Like I said, people think I speak like a Dominican. I do not hear it like that, but who knows. And then just my experience non-hub area would just have to be like having to learn more about myself because I'm away from everybody that's like myself. I'm gonna get a little emotional because, oh my gosh, sometimes I do miss being back in New York because I just look at the videos like on Facebook and stuff, or like everybody connecting, and I'm just like, wow, I wish I was at that Fedu. I wish I was watching y'all perform. I wish, you know, it's like weird because I feel like an outcast a lot of times, you know, like it's like sometimes I feel like I'm not Garifuna enough, or I feel like I'm not Honduran enough, or like I'm definitely not American enough, even though, you know, like I'm American. It's like, so, you know what I'm saying? But I still try to make the effort to just, you know, feel comfortable in my skin, still make the effort to educate people, because it used to be frustrating having to show people on the map where Honduras was, or have to explain to people why I'm black, or all of this, or, you know, what are some Honduran foods, and da-da-da, and it gets frustrating, but now it's kind of like fun. Sometimes it gets annoying when people try to be smart in the mouth, like, oh, well, you're black, I know you're not Honduran. Or like if I go to, this is my favorite one, when I go to Compare, right, compare foods, sister shopping, grabs her banana soda, grabs her zombos, put it in, you know, I see somebody with the Honduran juice, catracha! Sis be looking back like, and I'm like, sis, I'm talking to you. Who else? Hello, hi, here. And they'll be like, oh, hello, hi. I'm just like, okay, never mind. You're not excited to see me. That is the one that kills me. That is the one that kills me. I don't think that necessarily happens a lot to a lot of my Honduran family members in New York, because it's not awkward to meet another black person that's from Honduras. But here, boy, I be so, and it's crazy because it's like I be so excited to look. Excuse my not so proper English. I speak how I want to speak. Whenever it depends on when I want to speak, I can switch up my accent as many times as I want. But I be mad excited, you know what I'm saying, to see these people sometimes, because like there's not a lot of Hondurans down here. There really aren't that many down here. Like, the Mexican population is pretty large, you know, and I feel like then after would probably be Salvador. Probably not gonna. I don't have correct numbers, so don't, you know, come in my neck. But I'm just saying it's not many Hondurans. So when I do see a Honduran, especially like if I see the flag, or if I see something, or something gives off that they're Honduran, I get super excited, and then they look at me like I'm some monkey. Sis, our soccer team has black people on it. How are you shook right now? How? How? But that's the one that kills me the most, though. It's like, okay, I'm not accepted by, you know, I wasn't accepted by Mexicans, I wasn't accepted by, you know, all these other people, but for it to be somebody that shares the same flag as me, and you look at me like I'm crazy, that's the one that kills me. Like, it really does bother me. But my non-hub experience has been something that I'm, in a sense, now that I'm older, I'm grateful of, because it's allowed me to learn more about my culture. It's made me more curious. I feel like I've said this before, I feel like if I was stayed in New York, I wouldn't be so curious about my culture just because I'm around the culture so much, you know what I'm saying? Versus me being away from it, in a sense, being homesick has made me like hungry to learn more. You know, I apologize. I speak with my hands a lot, but hey. But yeah, being away from the culture is, you know, I feel like made me curious, made me hungry, made me want to learn, maybe want to educate, because people, you know, are ignorant to, you know, what it is, where's Honduras, or they're ignorant to the different races in Honduras, they're ignorant to different cultures in Honduras, they're ignorant to what a Garifuna is. So it's kind of been like a task for me living here, having to teach people, hey, this is what Garifuna is, this is where Honduras is located, this is what we speak, this is what we practice, this you know what I'm saying? And it's been pretty fun. People have actually learned, but you know, it's been an experience. I've enjoyed the experience. It was really tough experience, a really tough experience. I've enjoyed it now. I'm gonna say that now, because past, boy, I wanted to throw hands with everybody. Like, why is it so complicated? I couldn't even speak. Why is it so complicated for y'all to understand that there are black people in, you know, the country? And like I've said, my experience might be different from another Honduran's experience. So you might hear another Honduran that lives in North Carolina's experience. It might be different from mine, because then they, you know, like I said, there's different races, there's different cultures. My experience in Honduras is different. My experience in the States is different. My experience down here is different. Is this, I'm willing to like listen, and I want to learn about other people's experiences as Central Americans, as, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Central American Twitter has actually allowed me to learn from other people's experiences. You know, like I listen to a lot of stuff and I'm like, can't relate. you know, like I really can't, but I'm learning. Like I can't relate, but I'm learning, you know. And so that's been my non-hub living experience, having to, you know, explain to people about my culture, about who I am, and having to learn about myself because my parents didn't necessarily raise me in like a extra Honduran or extra Garifuna culture. So I want to thank Stephanie once again for inspiring this video. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. I am pretty fast at responding sometimes. I'm not gonna promise anything. Subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Don't follow me on Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat no more. Snapchat did. Thank you all for like being, you know, supporters, and I guess a happy 1 year anniversary, happy 1 YouTube versary to me. Ciao mi gente.